Good morning. Welcome to Courageous Conversations. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to come on, but I want to talk about fear of conflict. It's such a huge one for so many of us. And I feel like there's a real opportunity at each turn. I'm just going to actually come away from the window so that I'm a little less foggy. And if you can relate to this, certainly jump on here so we can have a conversation about that. So let's just see here. Firstly, I'm going to do some sharing in my group, Courageous Conversations, which I would love you to join because, of course, this is where we hang out together making brave choices. And hi, Tracy. Nice to have you join us. And also, this is where we start to really think about our own experience around fear of conflict. I want to tell you my experience around fear of conflict. It certainly is a real one. I, as much as I have a strong outer presentation, I definitely have sort of a cavernous fear of conflict and confrontation and those kinds of things. But I want to tell you a little bit about how that shows up for me and how that shows up for some of my clients and how that shows up for a lot of people, because fear of conflict, I find, is a common, very, very, very common thing. So I've done a little sharing on my group, Courageous Conversations, and on my page, Courageous Conversations, which I'd love you to interact with, but also love you to come on and tell me you're here and tell me what your journey is with fear of conflict. So, all right, so let's just talk about fear of conflict as a concept, and I just want to wait for a few more people to come on to come on the show, or rather to come and watch the show. But the thing about fear of conflict that I have noticed in my own self as I troubleshoot it, as I really go in there and look at what's the fear that I actually have, like what is this, why is there a fear around conflict, is I realize is that it's not the actual experience of conflict that freaks me out or that has informed me. It's the what will happen to me afterwards. It's the will I lose sleep? Will I engage in a ton of, emotional, self-flagellation or replaying the thing over and over and over and over. It's the post-conflict that really does a number on me. And so the actual conflict, I realized I can do. And so I'm just giving new people that are coming on, let me know you're here, awesome. But I'm just giving you my experience around fear of conflict. And so the actual conflict, I know that I can navigate very, very well because of my training and because, I'm a person that can stand up to people and all this stuff. However, I have a fear of conflict because not so much of the conflict, but of the post effect of the conflict on my psyche, on losing sleep, on feeling depressive, on feeling sad, on feeling all those things. So I have found myself just avoiding conflict, and what that did over the years, and I've mastered it generally, thank goodness, but I hear this a lot in with clients and people I work with, and seminars I talk in seminars I teach, people talk about their own fear of conflict. And then what the sad thing is that they're letting go of things that they shouldn't be letting go of. They're allowing people in their life that are showing them who they are, allowing them in their life, and they're showing them who they are, but they're still allowing them in because I don't want to deal with the conflict. I don't want to rock the boat. For me, it was about not so much the problem with rocking the boat, but what I would feel at night not sleeping, what I would feel in terms of shame or self-doubt or what did I do wrong, and it would sit with me for so long, even though I knew logically that everything was, that I was in my rights to speak, and that this was a, hi Sonia, good to see you, hello everyone who's joining me as we talk about fear of conflict. It's such an important topic because we all have to go through some conflict sometimes. There's no way around the mountain. You got to get through stuff. But I'm just sort of troubleshooting with you and showing you my own journey with fear of conflict and what I actually have heard and seen with other people. But, some people are afraid of the actual conflict because they get frozen in the moment of having to, their words don't come out and they get to be, unable to, say what they want to say. Hi, Andrew. Thank you for your compliment. Morning, gorgeous. That's always a nice thing to hear, especially when you feel like you're in the morning. But so some people feel actually afraid of the actual interaction. For me, that's not the case. For a lot of people, it is. Other people feel afraid, and I really relate to this, of what you will feel about yourself post-interaction. And that, for me, has been a journey of really not stopping, speaking my truth, asking for what I need to ask for, not compromising when it's clearly reasonable not to compromise. I mean, I'm not saying being rigid. I'm saying, yes, you have to compromise often. But, sometimes I have found myself softening my expression about something that's important to me more than it needs to be softened. Sometimes a direct conversation is extremely important, but I have found myself avoiding that and feeling afraid of that and literally just staying away from that so that I don't have this sort of anxiety-filled night or 2 or 3 or those kinds of things. So my journey about fear of conflict has been fear of how I will feel after the conflict, not during the conflict. But a lot of people, I don't know if you can relate, and let me know, has been about the actual journey of conflict, the actual experience of speaking those words that will bring on of disagreeing, Which one sounds like you, Andrew? And so let's find out when he comes back. But so I feel like the important thing to remember here is to, again, I always say, everybody, troubleshoot the self. Really understand what it is that you are trying to say or what you feel is important for you to say. In other words, assess what the conflict is that you want to bring on. Sorry.
Troubleshoot the self.
Sorry.
Really understand.
I just clicked on my own live on my own page, and of course you guys just heard that. Sorry about that. Technical fun. But I'm finding it a little cloudy. Everybody's seeing me, and I'm going to just clean the lens here. Sorry, guys. There we go. Ooh, that's a little clearer. Wow, clarity. Clarity shines, which is what you need to do. You need to clearly look at, is the thing you're about to talk about, the conflict you're about to buy into, the thing you're going to go and fight for, or even just mention. Because I don't know, I found myself not even mentioning things in my life because I didn't want to feel the after effect of the conflict. Does that make sense? So let me see here what Andrew says. Being soft and carrying the weight when I should, when I should be speaking my thoughts. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not soft, Andrew. It's human. Like, I just want to say, it's just human, But I really feel like there is such an opportunity for you, for everyone, me included, to troubleshoot. Oh, I can feel the angels in the room here. My nose is itchy. Really, really look at, for example, this. Is the conflict or the thing you're about to speak up for reasonable, logically? Is it something that you have a right to? Did someone actually transgress a boundary? Is this something reasonable to ask for? And if you've got yes to a lot of those answers, then I'm like asking you to go for it. Sonia says, no trouble here to speak up, awesome, and have some conflict, but not so for my partner who avoids at all costs. I know, Sonia, you're lucky, man. It's like, girl, lovely woman, you are lucky. And it's interesting because a lot of us, and people would be so shocked to think that I'm afraid of conflict. It's like, they think, oh, Victoria, she's, she can say, no, really, I come from family of origin where conflict was volatile, so I just avoid it. I'm afraid of volatility. I'm afraid of, I have been afraid of that. It's now shifted over a number of years. So, but your partner, it sounds like, has a story about, what conflict brings from family of origin, maybe. And so that's an important piece too. It's hard to be in a partnership in which one person is deeply afraid of conflict and then nothing gets resolved. But so here's the other side of the mountain here, which is how to have conflict that's safe and to make conflict safe for yourself and in the case of Sonia, to really make conflict safe for the partner, is to commit to rules of engagement that aren't trauma-based in the conflict. So, I mean, I love and how refreshing it is to be able to have a conflict or a misunderstanding with someone who agrees with the same rules of engagement for troubleshooting a problem and going in there and committing to non-volatility, committing to listening to the other person, committing to allowing the other person to be, so Sonia says, because it forces me to be the bad guy or the mom, not sexy. Right. No, absolutely. It creates an imbalance in the relationship, Sonia. That's what I'm hearing. But there is such a huge opportunity. So I pick and choose who I'm going to have free conflict with, or so I'll have one or two people in my life in which, and I recommend this for people, in which we've already discussed before there's a conflict, how to have a conflict. How to have a conflict. And also to really process post-conflict with the person or with a therapist or with a trusted friend, how when you're feeling like a bit irrational about how the conflict went, to troubleshoot that, write in your journal and process it to mitigate and lessen some of that anxiety that shows up post-conflict. Andrew says, I had to write letters. Let me see here. I had to write letters back and forth and an ex, so I didn't so it didn't turn into a fight. Yeah, I mean, but that's not a bad way, Andrew. Let's just, it's more cumbersome because you're writing. And I wonder, did the ex write back or did the ex yell back? That's interesting. And Linda says, oh yes, making conflict safe is my issue. I often get aggressive. That's my history. Yeah, because let's get real here. When you're in a heightened state, it's hard to bring yourself down. So for me, and I don't know if people relate, when I get into a heightened state, my heightened state sends me into shutdown mode where I'm almost numbed out versus, because it's what I knew as a kid. So I literally avoid that at all cost. But if you're in this sort of fight, like I was working with a couple a long time ago, in which one of the people would do, couldn't let it go. Hammering. What do you mean by that? I know you were this. Hammering at the partner. And then the partner would be like, couldn't get a word in edgewise. And so I would really be mediating this conflict with this couple. But it was interesting because when I told the person who was the hammerer to breathe and let me know what they were feeling afraid. And it was sort of a revelation to the whole room. It's like, you're feeling afraid, but yet you're in attack mode. So usually attack mode comes from the feeling of profound fight, flight, fear. It's fear. And in the absence of being able to flee, which this person wanted to, instead, what this person did was just get into fight mode. And then the other person was profoundly afraid of that aggressive energy, and then there was major retreat. So we would never be able to resolve the conflicts until we set up rules of engagement so that it became safe for both people. But I myself find that even the people really kind of are not as open to rules of engagement if they don't feel secure within themselves about what they want in the situation. So the most important thing for each person is get clear about what you want, what you need, what exactly is important to you, and is it worth this next step, which is to venture into the conflict of the situation. And I think that, what I'm saying is pretty universal for a lot of people. Lucky are those who can just feel okay about what it is that they are looking to get into a conflict about, or ask for what they need, or piss someone off. I feel so in admiration of people, but I want people to work on how do they feel after the conflict. And also I want people not to feel guilty or ashamed of how they behaved in the conflict. Linda says, I get quiet when I feel I want to blow someone. I want to blow sometimes. It is an internal battle to learn how to express my feelings. Exactly. Some people are afraid of their own ways of expressing and their own ways of letting that anger become unleashed. The most important thing, I repeat, will not engage in conflict with someone who has shown me that they are not willing to regulate their emotions when they're angry. I just won't engage. I have observed people, and that's in my personal life. If I see that they're unwilling to regulate their emotions with someone else, I will tell myself a mental note, nope, there will be no conflict with this person. I will be walking on eggshells. And that's clearly because of my own family of origin experiences with volatile, fighting and all that. So in the office, when I'm watching someone freak out and the other person going into attack mode, I go into massive control of the situation so that everybody feels safe. I'm not only helping the person who is freaked out by the violence or by the violent speaking, I'm helping the person who does the violent speaking because they inevitably feel guilty, feel ashamed, and they go down the rabbit hole of their own self-esteem descent in that conflictual situation. So when I talk about rules of engagement, I'm talking about fair fighting. I'm talking about a willingness to fair fight and to troubleshoot how we're going to do a conflict when and if it shows up, because it does. In relationships, the closer you become, you see the thing, we all want intimacy, we all want closeness. Well, the truth is that on the other side of intimacy and closeness is conflict. You become relaxed and that's when you start to engage with the other person in a way that is more family-like, more close-like, and then conflict ensues. Susan Scott, Andrew King says, wrote an awesome book called Fierce Conversations. It was good. Yeah, I love that. I love that book. That's awesome. And it is like a courageous conversation, which is so, here I am. I have a Facebook live show called Courageous Conversations, and I'm owning my shit that I'm afraid of conflict. So, so you see what I'm saying, people? Everyone has their shit, and my fear of conflict is one of those, things that I have a lifelong, working with. I work on that part of myself. And Andrew says that book was not as good as my book, which is Find Your Self Culture. Please pick up a copy. Thank you, Andrew. You're a doll. I'm doing the audiobook now, Andrew, and I'm rereading my book, and I'm really loving my book. It's a good book, and it really does help people fight for their self-culture. And I believe that healthy conflict, or the getting over the fear of conflict, requires that people discover who their self-culture is or what their self-culture is and really guard it. Because if you give up on things and compromise on things and let go of things that you shouldn't be simply because you're afraid of conflict, you really are not living out your self-culture, which I believe is necessary, just necessary for the journey of growing into a balanced adult, and the growing into a balanced adult piece is such a important journey, because if you become more of a balanced adult, here's the upshot. It's not a narcissistic journey. The more of a balanced adult you become, the more you'll be able to help the planet. And really importantly, let's just say this in a very important way, the more your children, if they're watching you fight, will learn about healthy conflict, and that will affect multi-generationally. I never saw healthy conflict, so multi-generationally, I know that myself and my sister, we both really fought really hard to learn about healthy fighting and healthy interacting and healthy, that it's okay to, but there is like a post-trauma for me that even though I'm having healthy fighting, even though I'm asking for what I need, even though I'm reasonable in what it is that I'm looking to get, and there will be a conflict that I have to work on, and I do work on it, not torturing myself post-conflict in self-doubt and in anxiety and fear and all that stuff. And that's something, thankfully, that I've really, really come to the other side of, but at times it does still show up. It's still a part of my journey. So I want to start to wrap this segment of the Courageous Conversation up, but allowing yourself to work on very clearly what it is you're looking to ask for or want for, or the conflict is about. Be brave. be courageous, have that courageous conversation, have that conflict, and be kind to yourself, and do the conversation, do the conflict without losing yourself, without becoming volatile. Do it in a calm way, do it in a fair way, speak from I sentences, I feel, I think, no, you. Listen to the other person to understand them, not to simply respond to them. Listen to understand, and you will likely bring on the other person to listen to you, to understand you. And this is so, so important, okay? So I hope this was helpful. Share this, because I think people want to hear about these types of things. And next week, as of Tuesday, I come on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll have a really cool guest on Wednesday, Hanya Kizimchuk, who has Hanya's Hope. She's fighting against child sex trafficking, and she's got a really great organization that she is championing, and I'm so in admiration of her. Talk about a courageous woman and courageous conversation. So Wednesday, Hanya. Tuesday, I come on. I'm gonna hammer at you with a great new courageous conversation that is gonna really, I think really inform and teach. And Wayne, thank you for showing up. Thank you so much. Great morning to you, brother. And also, on Wednesday, Wednesday I've got my guest, and then Thursday I have got another courageous conversation coming on. So lots to learn, lots to grow, and also, pick up a copy of my book, Find Yourself Cultures. Andrew King is giving it a great endorsement. And join my group, Courageous Conversations, and like my page, Courageous Conversations. Wishing you such warmth and such light, such warmth, such light as you go through this planet. Prepare yourself for the colder weather that's coming our way in Toronto, and bump up your vitamin D and your activity, and take some outside in, and warmth and light and blessings and love to you, and keep having a courageous conversation with yourself and others. Okay? Blessings. Take care.